decentralized metaverses be able to provide a proper use case for NFTs? Moderated by Mike Prasad.
So we had some scheduling changes, so I'm going to kick off this panel. And before I start, if we could have our speakers give a quick background on who they are, what they do.
Hi. My name is Eugene, and I work as a COO in the DeepMine Metaverse, which is a NFT game. It's an economic strategy, social economic strategy. So it's kind of a complicated, hardcore game. So obviously we do have NFTs, and we have a big plans for DAO, for decentralization in the metaverse, because we believe in the open market economy in the metaverse. And basically that's why I'm here.
Very cool.
Like this?
Hello. Hey guys. I'm Ari. I'm the COO of Darkblock. So what we do is basically speaks a lot to what you were talking about earlier. It's enabling creators to give access control and monetize their creations, set their own rules for monetization in the Web3 creator economy. So for an example, a music band could drop their album as an NFT, but the NFT that it's available on blockchain is only the cover, and we provide the tools so that it's granted access only to the holders of that NFT gets to listen to the music, and you can have that, like once for purchasing the NFT. Or the artist can set like, okay, you can have subscription. It could be like a decentralized Patreon, for example. We want to. This space is very nascent, and we want to be providing this specific tools for the whole community.
Cool. I'm Mike Prasad. I'm founder of a company called Every Creator. We're a creator-based platform for creators to own their community. Probably very similar in terms of capabilities in helping creators of all types, not just influencers, but also brands and businesses, build their community and be able to create a unifying layer for their audience to come and be direct audience and direct community. So we're talking about specifically metaverse here, and what I want to talk about is, what do we think are the specific value and utility that can be created between NFTs and their applications in the metaverse? What is the specific ways that NFTs can be utilized in the metaverse scenario?
I think we can go for hours talking about that, because I think a lot of people think that metaverse is basically kind of a game where you just pop on the VR or something and you just hang around with the people. I think that what people don't realize is metaverse can actually be a huge part of the life. I mean, like for me personally, I would better go to the metaverse and shop for the t-shirt. I hate going to the shops, and I think, we will go to the metaverse and you just pop into the store, you say, show me only the black ones, you see the black ones and pop, and that's it. And it's gonna be the use case everywhere. You wanna see the apartments, you go to the metaverse and you only see the apartments you want. You don't need to drive half an hour through the city and stuff like that. And NFTs, I think, is going to be a big part of providing the authenticity for the things, because now even if you go to the marketplace, how can you know that the listing there is not a scam? With an NFT, imagine every object that you buy comes with an NFT. And it just proves you have a car and you have an NFT that shows that this car is yours. And you can go to the metaverse and say, okay, I own a BMW. Here I have their NFT that proves that. And when you sell the car, you basically pass the NFT as well.
So in this case, you're talking about this idea of authentication and essentially a title to ownership that is transferable. And so something I didn't get to cover in my talk earlier is this idea of persistence is a requirement for commerce and a requirement for culture, identity, community, and what NFTs provide is something that persists independent of the user. So like this phone, if I don't own it, if I put it down, it still exists the minute I put it down, I can pick it back up. You don't have that necessarily in digital content, digital items, and so NFTs provide a way to create persistence outside of a single person without having to pay for hosting, et cetera. We had the infrastructure there. So persistence is definitely one core utility. In regards to but how it could that can then create value either in a metaverse or through metaverses. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, so I wanted to take some use cases that are happening right now already are generating money. Of course, the first one and the most basic one is selling land on NFTs, and each slot of land is represented by an NFT, and it's demonstrably verified that this plot of land is here and it's owned by this one, and this is the history of ownership. But what's happening also is NFTs are being used as tickets to metaverse events. Either it's you own some collection and then you always get access to those events, but also normal tickets to enter events. And my company Darkblock, we had an exclusive workshop in a metaverse called Spatial a couple of weeks ago, and you had to own a specific NFT to be able to enter that event. So it's basically an NFT ticket.
So it's an access token in a sense. So we get
If I can add on that, I think the biggest plus and advantage of NFT is the extreme liquidity of it. Just the way you can pass it, everything, it just simplifies everything. When you say even about the ticket for the event, just if you had a physical ticket, it's always such a pain, to be able to register it to someone and to pass it. With NFT, just as simple as
not only that. Sorry to jump on that. NFT is also infinitely composable. What we do, in that case for that event that we had, we were able to add exclusive content to the ticket that's only available to the ones that attended. So that means event coordinators can put videos, attach that to the NFT before the event, and can even if this would have an NFT event, NFT ticket, the organizers could put recordings of ours afterwards. It's composable. It's it's Web3 Legos.
Well, and that's the beauty. I think NFT is a format, right? It is something you can program in any way you want. It's literally a smart contract that exists and persists, and what you do with it is super open-ended. And so I think I agree with some of the comments you had, that metaverses doesn't have to be this idea of a virtual 3D gaming environment. I think I would argue, by my definition, metaverses are the idea of what I call a meta layer. So this idea of a secondary layer that organizes structures and gives an environment to anything. It doesn't have to be virtual gaming. It could be the concerts, for example. So in your example, what you're describing is the ticket provides access, but it also provides a persistence that then allows an experience to be continued. And so it's a meta layer over the concert experience. And that provides additional value to both the concert goer, the artist, and the concert. When it comes to utility around that, I think we can expand this idea of what metaverses is to be a unifying layer that creates a new experience that then leverages something to execute that, in this case, NFTs. And so if you open up that definition to what metaverse experiences can be, I think that opens up the possibility to what you can do with it that goes way beyond a gaming environment, and again, what most people will think when they hear metaverse. So let's talk about, in that scenario, going beyond just either an NFT basic utility or going beyond a gaming environment. You mentioned your company is building solutions to build these engagements and release content. So in that scenario, you're creating a persistent experience for the holder of that NFT. So how do you see that progressing as someone uses your toolkit to provide that experience to their audience?
how do I see that progress? That's a good question. I mean, when you use our tool, the creator of the NFT can like continuously add content to the NFT. They are the owner, so it's basically like what NFT projects are doing now. They're trying to provide more value to their original holders. But how they do it, they don't have that many options. They make like derivatives themselves, and they say, okay, we're gonna drop that, and it's gonna go up in value like Bored Ape, and then Mutant Ape, and then Kennel Club, and stuff like that. But you can't do that forever, right? But with our solution, you can add content to the same original NFT forever, and making it more valuable.
So in this case, you're using NFTs to create a store of value that isn't necessarily monetary speculative, but based on actual creation, actual content, actual experiences.
Exactly.
Cool. So we had a shift in schedule today, so I think everyone's kind of trailing in. But we have a third panelist. I'd love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hello, I'm Jaguar. I'm the head of Jaguar Regulation and Compliance, Jaguar Lawyers, and Jaguar CPAs. And I do regulations of NFT companies, NFT entrepreneurs, and crypto and fintech entrepreneurs and companies around the globe, where regulation enables, first, banking is feasible, and even taxing is minimal. So I'd like to speak about NFTs over the metaverse as a tool and a mean which would have an intrinsic value by itself, regardless of its price, regardless of how it is sold, regardless of its royalties. Unlike the common NFTs that we're used to nowadays, which are mostly visual, somewhat musical or vocal, they're the simplest kind of NFT to address a market because it's easier to grasp an idea with our senses, like the eyes and the ears. However, NFTs are being them actually a way to state either an ownership or any legal right to an asset, being a digital asset or real world physical asset. Therefore, their play over the metaverse is going to be huge and vital, and as it is already to some extent. Once the metaverse increases and gets widespread much over, then NFTs will be the new existence of rights. This will be and starting to be the actual law, the actual accounting and audit of rights and assets and their value or presentation, and either ownership or other rights to them. So the concept spreads far beyond being a painting or musical element only. And specifically, if we take, actually we talk about the metaverse a lot, that it's a new thing, but if you take the metaverse as the digital representation of the human world, therefore, everybody who's been using, all our younger generation who's been using, used to be Facebook, now the youngsters don't use Facebook, they use TikToks and Snapchat and others and Instagram, etc., and Twitter. This is actually their digital representation in the world. And I can give you an example. One of my sons is a teenager. He's 16. And whenever I tell him to do something at home, like home chores, etc., he says, I'm with friends. Now, he's been with friends for the last 3 years, but he's never gone out of his room unless for school and back. But he's always with friends. And once we, the adults, look at it as something that's weird, it's unhealthy, and that's not unsocial, etc., this is actually the new social skills, the new socialism, or the new social behavior of that generation. So they are on a metaverse, and we are to much of extent as well, but we're not calling it the metaverse. So it's going to be the new metaverses like Decentraland, like the Solana ones, the MetaSand, etc. But we're already there. We're not halfway there. We're 2/3 of the way there already. And I don't know if you see, but whenever you buy a new car or a house to some extent, or a new clothes or shoe or an expensive watch, which makes no sense because we have the time on our cell phones actually, right? We do this for social benefit, of to show that we have taste or to show that we're full enough to spend that much money on it, right? But it will make no sense if about 90 or 98% of our communication and socializing with other people is going to be digital. It doesn't really matter what we wear. The COVID time have shown that. We could have worn pajamas or underwear and do a lot of Zooms, right? So it doesn't really matter what we own physically anymore. However, it will make much more sense to spend the $300 over a metaverse presented shoes or watch or car or any presents rather than the physical one. So NFTs will be a major part of rights. Sorry for taking this.
I think we're all on the same page on that. We talk about the mechanism. I'd like to get specific with the definitions. And so we're saying that some of the base abilities of an NFT is persistence, its ability to build in mechanics, the ability to interoperability is a big, and portability, right? So it isn't. So I would argue that NFTs are not liquid, though, in the sense that any physical object that has persistence is not liquid by in and of itself. You could sell it to someone as transferable, and so the interoperability, transferability is much more scalable than with a physical type of requirement. We talked about the shared experiences, the digital layer over that. We definitely see that in this idea with interactions now. The majority of our interaction with our real life, if you have a mobile phone, most of your functional utility in your life operates through a digital environment. You go to your bank, you talk to your friends, you do email. So all the key methodologies for executing the things that you do in your life, personal and work, already operate in a virtual environment, and you've magnified your ability as a human to do something through those mechanisms. And so what NFTs does, I think what everyone's saying is it gives that ability, that value, that engagement, that activity, that capability to be stored, and then that stored value can then be portable and then have different functionalities. And so let's talk now about the industries that we think are most likely to be able to use this kind of new definition of metaverse, new definition of NFTs. Because I agree that we took, again, the greatest technology in the world of the recent years, and we used the most shitty basic version of implementation, which is extending something that we could recognize, which is this idea of, okay, well, it's limited. It could be it's something that is physically, or is that sort of mimics the physical ability of ownership. So we'll attach it to an image that we can see, and it's sendable. We understand images on the internet. Social media has taught us that. But that is the most pedestrian utility of NFTs. So going beyond that, the current market that is very speculative is speculative because collectibles are fundamentally based on demand and scarcity and social capital. What does it mean within a social construct, within culture? Why culture is so important, I think, in overall in understanding Web3 is that we now have new behavior, like you mentioned with your son, where culture and interaction is different. Therefore, social capital is different. The things that are valuable for someone that might be a Dior purse within a site recognizable to one type of audience, but to someone else, that might be a really cool TikTok video. That might be a really cool style or creation that has social capital. And so we now can assign value to that in a way that we couldn't before, and NFTs provide a format to that. That's why we've seen the market around, speculative markets around NFTs, and the arts implementation be so great because we're now assigning value based on the social capital. But again, that is a speculative value versus utility value. You would not say that your mobile banking app or you're able to message someone in text is speculative value. It has a real utility value. So, based on all of that, what are some of the industries and implementations that can create a meta layer experience across their business and use NFTs as a way to provide a function that has value beyond speculation?
Well, I think, first of all, when we're talking about metaverses, probably two industries that are gonna be at the forefront are those that have the most money, are military and banking. Like in all the most advanced technologies. For example, in Dubai, the biggest band, Emirates NBD, I think just a week ago announced a huge accelerator for metaverse banking experience, because people don't like going to the banks. they hate it. Always the queues and stuff like that, and people that use the banking, they value their time. So I think the banking, and they have the money to finance that. The problem is that it's very, very far from decentralized experience. So it's going to be very centralized, very controlled by the government also because it's banking. But I think they're going to be at the forefront, and military as well, but not the NFTs. Obviously, they're not going to use the NFTs. But they've been doing that with the, for example, with the Microsoft Surface glasses. Yeah, the HoloLens. So for the metaverse, I think, and for the banking, I think, as it was mentioned, I think they will use NFTs. For example, if you buy some bonds or you buy some stocks, they would use NFTs as a proof of ownership. That just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for like what businesses will be disrupted or should utilize metaverse. Like you said, I think real estate will become very big very fast. It's just so much easier to, go and experience an apartment in the metaverse, and you can experience a lot of them than just to view them on a Web2 website, or have the annoyance of going there in real life. That's one, but also, I mean, this is already happening to some extent. But like just meetings, go to a metaverse space to have a meeting, to share your screen there. It sounds weird, but it's actually a little bit more personal than just doing Zoom or Google Meet. So I don't see being like full metaverse offices straight away, but I think it's closer than we think.
Well, first I resent the fact that only scarcity states value, because it is right for assets, it is not right for legal rights. There are tons of legal rights of ownerships in so many assets. So I think the point of the value is the asset that the NFT relates to, be it digital or physical. So that's for start. And second, I think that it wouldn't be used that much for illegal and illicit activities, because NFT, being non-fungible, is much easier, much faster and easier to find over the blockchain, find it on chain, rather than Bitcoin or Ethereum or any others that are fungible. So, these can be mixed and go through mixers, etc. See tornadoes, Kaja related recent story, etc. So that NFTs would be able to recognize much faster, and that's a really good help for regulators. And therefore, I believe that, as you mentioned, real estate could be a good value. However, it would lack the scarcity if you can build so many other lands and other metaverses. So it will have somewhat of a value, but I believe it will be a second layer over assets they relate to. So the value of an NFT will be just the value of the asset it relates to. And these assets is just the whole economy, the digital economy and the physical one. So there's nothing different than the economy we've been used to, in my opinion.
So let's recap a little bit. So we're talking about the metaverse. The first two, you gave examples of metaverse allowing different utilization to create highly scalable, accessible, immediate experiences that don't require the same effort and time to physically do something. So visiting an apartment, you can have the same understanding of a layout in a digital 3D environment. Banking is a good example, because if you use an analogy, cash is a bearer bond, same as an NFT. If you own it, it's yours, it has a function. But because of that, banks were based on this idea of an actual vault holding cash and gold. And now that we have credit and other types of mechanisms for storing value digitally, we don't normally need to physically go to the bank to do most of our banking. And so, using that analogy to NFTs within the metaverse environment, you have the ability to then create accessibility, scalability, and remove the physical requirement. I think that's definitely what we haven't seen enough of that. And I agree that the scarcity collectible markets are sort of a plebeian way of doing it. But that can be applied in other areas, such as real estate, such as binding the rights and the asset of a real world and allowing then taking that physical-based asset and then allowing a much higher liquidity, higher frequency trading with more security, more KYC, in a way that then takes the same asset, whether it's a digital environment asset or a digital asset tied to a physical asset, and then that now becomes much more transferable. So that is a really simple example would be a gift certificate, like a digital gift certificate, gift card for Amazon, right? I can then send it to anyone in the world. It can be traded and whatever. And so that takes the addressable market, creates liquidity, it creates higher value. It does create more. It takes something that's locked to a scarce or siloed market and opens it up to more buyers. And theoretically, that it can also increase speculative value as a bonus, but also make it much more accessible and much more monetizable, because liquidity of any asset class, physical or otherwise, is always an issue. So you're opening up a unified liquidity pool through the interoperability provided by the unified chain. So I think those correctly assessed, I think what we'll see the next generation of opportunities in the metaverse and NFTs, but specifically how NFTs will provide utility to things beyond speculative value. So to close, give me one quick thought or prediction or outlook that you have on the markets as it relates to metaverse and NFTs. Or something you're excited for seeing or you haven't seen yet, something like that.
If I may, first of all, just a warning before the markets, be aware that once an NFT is being registered and not just transferable but also tradable, we go back to the happy days of 2017 of being a utility token or a security token. And once it's tradable and it has financial assets and benefits to it, bang, you go to work with the SEC or vis-a-vis the security exchange regulators in each country you're either registered or that you're targeting, you have a target market there. So bear in mind to have a legal opinion or to make sure technically, R&D-wise, software-wise, that you're willing to pay the price of being actually a security. And I think the future, therefore, in my opinion, will be a total division of the NFTs to be either a total absolute utility with no other financial value but the value of the asset it relates to, and therefore a utility and has only usage aspects to it, or a total security with no excuses, with no other framings and paintings around it to make it look like it's not. It would be either or, absolutely. So this is my point of view.
It's a very, very good differentiation, for sure.
Thank you.
So 10, 50 years ago, Kevin Kelly, editor of Wired, predicted that the internet will give creators the ability to live off of only 1,000 dedicated fans. So that you only need the support of 1,000 dedicated fans to make a living. Now, Web 2 did not make this happen, but I firmly believe Web 3 can make this happen, that it will take care of the long tail of creators. For example, I think like 85% of creators on Spotify only get $100 a year or some crazy amount like that. So obviously, Web 2 has failed the long tail of creators. Web 3 will enable it.
I would argue there is no creator economy in Web 2. There is just creator distribution that funds someone else's economy. Web 3 enables the mechanics for the creator to actually have their own economy based on their value versus their ability to drive someone else's transaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, as for the market, I expect that it will boom like in 2017 with metaverses here and there. But I expect that a couple of really great projects will emerge that will provide a proper utility for people instead of just avatars. Again, as Meta is ridiculed with this half-body avatars just wandering around, shitty graphics. But I expect that more and more big companies from conventional industries entering, there will be more utility, more users coming in, and there will be a circle that will just empower itself.
Thank you, I agree. And I think I'll close with the idea that utility comes from real-world application. The opportunity for NFTs and Metaverse to impact our lives and create value is its ability to scale things digitally that cannot be scaled and accessible in the real world but its core utility comes from its ability to impact the real world. And so this idea of interplay between digital and real is critical. And I think you'll start seeing the best use cases that prove out Web3 to be focused on those dynamics. So thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.